Greetings and salutations, this is Emperor Vespasian bringing you our Slaanesh army, which is a Chaos Marine dedicated to Slaanesh army. And I was going to do this as two separate lots, sort of one lot with the demons as a demon army and one lot with the Chaos Infantry and, the Chaos Space Marines. I decided to put the whole thing together because it is one whole army. It's not my army, it's my sidekick's army, my lady sidekick, my wife, and that is why all the vehicles have flames coming out of the back, which I will show you in a minute, because she wanted all the vehicles to have flames coming out of the back, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought you were clever.
Yeah. Right, so I'll do a quick rundown of the army. This is the army in total. There's quite a lot of figures here. Now, points wise, we have not got a clue how much it's worth. I'm guessing about 7,000 off the top of my head from armies I've built in the past, but that was many years ago and there is a bit of points difference. But I'm going to run around the entire army and show you everything we've got. So we'll start off with the demons first. So here we have the, is it an enchantress? Enrapturous, that's it. Just there. She's a very interesting character who plays a harp with someone's spine. So that's nice, isn't it? Then we have Slaanesh themselves, the Slaanesh demonettes, or the standard infantry for the demons. We only have the starter box demonettes, so we do want to add some demonettes to that in the end when we get around to it. Then we have the Demonette Cavalry, which is probably the best bit of the army because it's nice and fast. Followed by Fiends. Now, I had the original Fiends when they first came out back in '89. That's a long time ago, last century. And I loved them, I thought they were great. These Fiends are way better. They're a lot better detailed, they're brilliant. And they more or less still have the same rules. Then we have the Chariot, which is just totally awesome. I just love the Chariot. One of the hardest models I've had to put together, but a great model all the same. Just brilliant model. Then moving on to another two demons. This demon is a Keeper of Secrets, and she's just lovely. Just an amazingly crafted model. Stepping on a dead Space Marine there, poor guy, didn't make it. And then we have another Keeper of Secrets. This one is the male version, and it's more or less male. And he's sort of a hunter, and he's great as well. This is a conversion. It took a lot to convert it. The model is not easy to convert. But there he is there, just sort of stomping across the battlefield. Then we'll go to our infantry. Right, we have, just here, these guys are the Noise Marines. Noise Marines are the big thing about having a Slaanesh army. And the Noise Marines are the sort of the most recognisable part of Slaanesh, really. Because they have the awesome Noise Marine weapons, the noise blasters and all that, so they're really good. So we've got one full squad of that, or two small squads. You can either have a 5-man squad or a 10-man squad. So we've got two 5-man squads or a 10-man squad, whichever way you want to do. Then we have two standard squads of infantry. They're not Noise Marines, they're just standard Chaos Infantry who are dedicated to Slaanesh. Then we have a Devastator squad at the back, because this is an old style army. I know we don't really have much in the way of Devastator squads these days, but this is an old style army. All the troops get to drive in rhinos, so we have 3 rhinos to carry the infantry, backed up by 2 Land Raiders, which are the Mark II Land Raider, not the Mark I, which is the Heresy era Land Raider, the Mark II, which is before it turned into the sort of modern Land Raider we know today. That's because these troops disappeared around 3,000 years ago. That's when they turned to Chaos, so they don't have the modern version of Land Raider. They have the Mark II, the post-Heresy Land Raider, which was the standard Land Raider at the time of the Abyssal Crusade. So during the Abyssal Crusade you wouldn't have the modern looking Land Raider. So it looks more like this, with the enclosed side sponsons. Then we get to the command element. Down here, here's the command element with a medic just there, the standard medic. One of the few Chaos Marine units to actually have medics, the other being the Death Guard. Just here, an apothecary. Then a Chaos Lord. Then Zaha himself, the chapter master of this particular chapter. And yes, he's a spider. So get over it, you know, deal with it. He's a spider. Stop being speciesist. Then we have a very interesting character who is a Terminator with wings. I know that's a strange thing as well, but you know, he's just a Chaos Champion. And then we have the Librarian to the chapter, who is electrocuting a Marine there. I think we've already done videos on these ones. Then we move on to the Bikers. Now, this army is a Slaanesh army, so it relies heavily on speed. And so bikers will come in very handy for any Slaanesh force. Fast moving Slaanesh armies are always the best type of army. Lastly, we have the Thunderhawk dropship. This was designed by my wife, hence all the gubbins and bits on it, and the nasty evil writing, which is in demonic, whatever. And it's a pretty good model. It's come on okay. The other side looks the same, but with slightly different things growing out of it. And I will do a separate video on it to show you what it really looks like. And yeah, that is the army in its entirety. So who are the Unhallowed? Well, the Unhallowed were originally named the Invictus, which I am reliably informed means the undefeated. I don't know, I don't speak Latin. But they were called the Invictus, and they were purple Marines. So this is one of the few Chaos chapters that didn't actually change their colour of their uniform. They changed, I think the shoulder pads are different and stuff, but other than that. So these are the Unhallowed Space Marine chapter, Chaos Space Marine chapter. Now, they lived 3,000 years ago, just before the Abyssal Crusade, on the borders of the Abyss, which is a warp storm which inhabits a bit of space a bit lower down than the Eye of Terror. So it's one of the lesser famous ones. And it was a really unpleasant area to live because you had a lot of Chaos raids coming out of the Abyss from Chaos troops left over from the time of the Heresy. Not a huge amount of Chaos Space Marines, mostly Chaos Imperial Guard and people who turned traitor, also quite a few Dark Eldar. The Abyss, as with the Eye, was created by the death of the Eldar and the creation of Slaanesh, who pretty much ruined the region. Now, this is really old lore. This is dating back to the old Rogue Trader. You had worlds on the edges of warp space, and they were sort of. This is at the time of the birth of Slaanesh, so this is back before the Crusades, before the First Crusade, when the Emperor set out from Terra with the fleets of Mars to colonise the Empire and create the area of territory we know as the Empire today. And a lot of these worlds were Dark Age of Technology worlds. Some of the worlds were obviously feral, and some of the worlds had no humans on them, but other worlds had perfectly civilised humans living on them who had maintained their technology. In the same way that as the Empire expanded, they began to run over worlds who had actually survived the fall of mankind. So the Dark Age of Technology, post the war with the robots and everything, they'd actually managed to maintain their standard template constructors, so they were able to keep technologically advanced. And some of these worlds were like that, and some of the worlds were just normal colony worlds. Now, this was way out of the way of where the Empire was. The Empire's borders had not expanded this far yet. And so these worlds mostly hadn't even heard of the Empire, and certainly didn't know the Empire was on Crusade. And so these worlds, who were on the borders of the new tear in the Imatrium, this huge abyss, began to fall into the abyss. Now, some of them, or a lot of them, don't stay there. There's lots of worlds in the abyss, but the worlds tend to fly in and out of the abyss, and some of them will come out of the abyss for 5 days or a week, and then go back in again for 1,000 years. And some will come out for 300 or 400 years and then go back in for 6 months and then come out again. So these are worlds that are affected by the laws of physics in the Chaos realm, but they're also coming back into our realm, into the Imatrium, into the normal space. So obviously you have effects of chaos on these worlds. So you have some worlds where their seas are made of oil, or their mountains are made entirely out of diamonds, or nuclear fissionable material grows on trees. Anything the Empire needs, these worlds are abundant with it. But the problem is that the Empire can't exactly land on these worlds and mine the stuff, because the worlds don't spend that long in real space. And part of the job of the Space Marine units around the Abyss was to monitor these worlds coming out of the Abyss. And they got pretty good at judging when, the Adeptus Mechanicus were there, so they were able to judge when these things were going to come out, and then they would send expeditions to come out. And in the old game, the original game back in '89, there were missions where one of these worlds had come out, and you had to go and land on this planet and get the resources. And you had so many turns to do it before it went back into the warp and stuff like that. So you've got a lot of scope there for games. But the point is, this particular chapter, the Invictus, that they were right on the edge, along with 30 other Space Marine legions. Chapters, so they weren't legions then. And their job was to guard local commerce, protect anyone from anything coming out of the Abyss, and also land on these worlds. And so the Invictus were very good at that. Some of them were very, very good at it. And they would even go into the warp after the worlds to mark them. So when they come into the real world, you could find them much easier. They placed beacons on them and stuff. And they worked. This chapter worked hand in glove with the Adeptus Mechanicus, and they had got quite a few STCs off of these worlds in the intervening time. So they were very technically minded, a very technically minded chapter. So then it comes along a Inquisition, and this particular Inquisition, I forget his name, Sebastian, I think, something like that. He was not a very nice guy, and he denounced all of the 30 Guardian chapters as traitors. He said, oh, their gene seed's corrupted, they're all bad, and they have two choices. One, we'll execute you, and we'll strip your chapter name and everything. And two, your chapters will go on a penitent crusade, and so you'll all fly into the Abyss and atone for your sins. So the chapters had a quick meeting, and led by one particular chapter, the name of which I forget, they all decided we'll go on a crusade. So they all got together, they got all their serfs together, their naval assets, everything they could get their hands on, and they flew into the Abyss. The moment they got into the Abyss, they were ambushed, because the whole thing was a trap. A lot of Marines died, a lot of ships were destroyed. Different groups of Marines managed to make it onto different worlds. Now, as I said, some of these worlds do come in and out of warp space, and it is actually an easy way of getting in and out of the warp without using a spacecraft. You just sit on one of these moons or one of these planets, and you can transfer that way. And this particular chapter fought its way through chaos, all the way to a world made entirely of iron, which was great because you can make stuff out of iron. And they landed on this world, and they knew it was going to be coming through the warp. and they cut the. It turned out this world had basically robots on board. The world had robots living on it, which is AI, which is a bad thing in 40k universe. You're not allowed to be AI. But that means they have access to STCs, so they were able to contact their allies, even though they'd been denounced and won this Abyssal Crusade. Their allies in the Mechanicus, and the Mechanicus came through to grab the AIs. They then, the chapter then planned, because their ships had been destroyed, the chapter then planned to ride the world out of the Abyss. And the Mechanicus betrayed them, stabbed them in the back, and sabotaged the world so it would not come back out of the warp, thereby trapping the chapter, who were still loyalists, on the bad side of the warp. This is mainly because the Mechanicus didn't want news of this find getting out, so they weren't actually being bad per se, they were simply following orders. But the Invictus saw this as a massive treason, and they saw the Empire as being treasonous towards them. Now, as time went on, about 300 years passed, and the handful of Space Marines made it out. Well, one intact chapter of the 30 made it out, and a few other squads and platoons of different chapters made it out with them. And they were rather angry. They made it out of the Abyss, and they said, "We've been betrayed." And so they went stomping over to the Inquisition. This particular Inquisitor had become well, there's two versions of the story. One version, the guy had died of old age in the intervening 300 years, and he'd been made a saint. And so there were statues to him and all the worlds around. And it turned out this guy, he was worshipped as a religious leader, and it turns out the guy was actually a traitor, and he was getting all the Imperial citizens to worship Chaos, thinking they were worshipping the Emperor. The other version, the guy's still alive, and he's leading this cult. And he ends up dead at the end of the story because the Space Marines kill him. So both versions, one's second edition version, and another one is probably about 6th edition version. So there's two versions of the story. I think it's the Realms of Chaos. Would that make it I've got the Realms of Chaos here somewhere. Not sure when this one came out. I'll just check the back of the book. I can't find the publishing date, so I'm not sure when this story came out, so I don't know. So in one of the stories, or both stories, it ends up the Crusading Marines that make it back alive, they gather all of the worshippers of this particular saint together, they gather all the icons and everything to this saint, and they put them all on a huge freighter and fly it into a sun. Problem solved. That's how the Space Marines deal with things. And that's the end of the story. But it leaves behind the Unhallowed. Now, the Unhallowed were trapped in the warp. Their ships were ruined, and the Mechanicus had betrayed them as far as they were concerned. And so they ended up making a pact with Slaanesh. The world in question was very Slaaneshi, and so he kind of helped make an alliance with Slaanesh. And the main reason for this is the Invictus, or the Unhallowed, as they are now, they sought for perfection. They sought for the best. So they were after technologies, just like the Mechanicus, to make humanity better. And the primary goal of Slaanesh is to seek for the best, to seek for the ultimate goal. And it kind of gelled with them. And there's lots more to the story, but to cut a long story short, we ended up with a Space Marine chapter which was relatively intact. It had lost its fleet, but it was intact. Being a very powerful force which you can control and deal and can be a problem for the region. And that's who these guys are. They're actually an intact Space Marine chapter. A lot of more than the balance of the chapters that fell during the Abyssal Crusade, they actually turned to Nurgle, and they allied themselves with Nurgle, which is kind of the antithesis of Slaanesh. Nurgle seek to level the playing field with everybody by making everything permanently dead but alive. and Slaanesh don't care who they trample over as long as they end up with the best. So they sort of went the opposite direction to the rest of the Marine chapters who turned to chaos. So the majority went to Nurgle, a few went to worshipping the Khorne, and no mention of the Rubric Marines in this, so whatever was left must have gone over to Slaanesh. So that's who these guys are. That's the background of the army, and you've seen the army here in front of you. And as I said, it's probably taken best part of a year to build this army. Took quite a lot of planning, especially with who would be the command and characters and what we'd go with. So it's taken quite a bit of planning and quite a bit of building, but I'm glad we're finally here. And I'll get into more detail about the rest of the plot and everything, and I'll go into the rules for the army, which it does have some interesting little rule sets. I have the full set of cards for the... Oh, can you see? You can't see. Out of focus. Full set of cards, and I will go through the rules for them, and that will be in another video, because I think this army will take a bit to go through and explain how everything works and how you can build it yourself or use it as an idea, as a template for your own stuff. So that's roughly about it. Sorry the video has gone on for so long, there was quite a lot to explain. I will have added pictures over as I was talking, so that's fine. I will leave you with a thank you and ask you to leave any comments in the comments section if you like this army or any questions you've got about the army. I will be putting everything about this army on our blog, Imperator Vespasian blog. Just go and check that. There's a link in the bar below, in the section below. And so all the pictures of this will eventually be loaded up onto there. And I'll put the cards on there as well for you as well, the rule cards. The quick reference cards. I'll put a full lot of them on. So thank you very much for watching. This has been Imperator Vespasian, wishing you a good day, especially the amount of time you've had to spend listening to my droning voice. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.